Lord knows where the swatch is now. Haven't found that yet. I'm back. Well, kind of. I mean, I'm in a different place. So it's been a little while and I've missed all of you. So I am taking this opportunity to come up here and do a quick episode about what's been going on. I think the last time I casted was maybe the middle of April. So that's 2 months ago. So here's what happened. We moved. What can you do? I packed up my camera, I packed up my yarn. I wasn't sure when I was going to get it all back out again, but it took until right about now. I think it was yesterday that I found my SD card and my little camera, got the lights out of their box, put everything together. So yeah, it's been a couple of months. It's been a little wild, and there was not really an announcement. You didn't miss anything. It just happened. So we are back in Illinois. For those of you who have been following along for a very long time, you know that we started in Illinois and we were in New York for a few years while my kid was in college there. And now we're back in Illinois, different house and new yarn room. So I'm trying a new setup. I have no idea if this is gonna work or if you'll enjoy the spectacle of the place. I might move myself around the yarn room at different points and see what works. I don't know, you tell me. But this is the new space in the new house and I quite like it. It's very much larger than the room I was working with in New York. So I have room for my yarn and my needle felting and my books, and it's just a little bit of a different space. So welcome to the new yarn room. I'm not sure if this is where I will always be casting from. I'm gonna try a few different angles. We'll see what you like. You let me know if this is working for you or not in terms of, I don't know, lighting, sound, all the things that matter. I do have some fun finished objects and objects in progress for you, works in progress for you for today. So we'll get right into the knitting. It's gonna be a quick episode. If you're new, it's usually a podcast about garment knitting and whatnot, design, modification, things like that in particular. So we are gonna do some of that in this episode. And if you are looking for me, I'm online as Knitting the Stash everywhere, Ravelry, YouTube, obviously, Instagram, and over on the main website, which is knittingthestash.com. And that is where you can find all my online classes and the Flock Farm Yarn Shop, which is back in action. I know it was offline for a couple months there while we were moving, but the Flock Farm Yarn Shop is back and ready to go. We have de-stash things over there. The Flock Farm Yarn Shop has lots of indie small batch yarn, including some more shorn. So if anybody's interested in that, head on over there. But yeah, look me up, send me emails, comment below. I love hearing from all of you, and I've missed you, genuinely missed you for the last couple of months. It has been hard to be doing all of the house packing, moving things without being able to like connect with the community as much as I like to. So thanks to those of you who have been in on the Saturday Zooms. I've been there as much as I can be. And it's been really great to catch up with you guys on those weeks that I was able to pop in on Zoom and say hi. That should be more regular from now on. So if you are interested in the Saturday Zoom and hanging out with all of us, send me an email at knittingthestash@gmail.com and I'll get you all the details. All right, as promised, let's do some knitting. I've been actually kind of not knitting in a lot of ways, but whenever I could have some free time and space and light and I wasn't absolutely exhausted, I've been working on my Lumens scarf. We talked about this one back in episode 174, maybe, because this is 176, I think. This is a Fiona Alice design and love her stuff. Talked a lot about this scarf on that episode 174. I think I was about here. So like I had finished the first part and the little bit of the color work. So this is what the complete scarf looks like, at least my version of it. I think the original might be longer. That's in part because I just grabbed yarn from my stash and I wasn't sure exactly how long I'd be able to make the whole thing. And as I talked about in the other episode, the color that you see here in this, the end pieces is actually a different color than the color that's here for the color work. Sneaky, I know. But that was the way that I was able to make the scarf long enough to actually scarf. So it is super warm because it's a tubular knit. So it's all in the round, which makes all the texture and color work that much easier. It's kind of the perfect length, I think. You could tuck it under a coat. You can swing it over your shoulder if you feel so inclined. And it does have that kind of like potential to be a muffler. if you want it to be. And I think I talked all about the yarn in the last episode in 174, so you can head back over there if you want all the details. But it's one of those knits that's like texture reproduced into like a color work, and this pattern was really actually very fun to knit. If you're looking for a kind of background project that you can pick up and remember the chart pretty easily, or just, you don't even need the chart. At some point you just remember like what you're doing as you do these little cute pearly triangles. It's a great pattern, and I really did work on it in the background whenever I had a few free moments, and it turned into a beautiful squishy scarf in the end. So that's Lumens. I always get the actual name wrong, but I'll put it on the screen so that you'll be able to find it on Ravelry if you're interested. Fiona Alice, great designer, love her stuff. This is from the Amira Sue magazine. Maybe it's like one of the 20-teen issues. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes just in case you're interested. So that one was fun to knit. Took a while just because, you know, it's on repeat for a long time. And then you finish it off by doing the same thing at the other end. And then in the meantime, I think I mentioned on the last time I was in a yarn room that I was trying to find a new sweater project. I had swatched for a bunch of different sweaters. You all offered some feedback and advice, and I ended up hearing from a bunch of you that one of the sweaters I was thinking of working on, which included the floats in the front of the sweater, and I don't think, Lord knows where the swatch is now. Haven't found that yet. But one of the sweaters I was thinking about working on had, basically you carried the floats in the front to create this kind of like distressed look in the yarn, almost like a run in a stocking or something like that. And a bunch of you mentioned that you liked the sweater, but you were like, ooh, snag central. And that kind of put me off it just a little bit. Plus, I didn't have enough yarn for it at that point. I realized, given that the swatch that I ended up creating was a combo of like a blue and a purple. I didn't have quite enough of each of them, and it was just going to be kind of a disaster waiting to happen. So that sweater is off the table for now, though I did end up getting more of the lichen and lace yarn that I had been using for the swatch. So this is like your roundabout long story short to how I got to this sweater. I did not go with the distressed looking sweater, though I did end up buying enough yarn to make it if I so choose to make it. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I just went back to an old favorite. I went back to Isabel Kraemer because I love Isabel Kraemer's designs. They always fit. It's easy to knit them when you're in the middle of like 10 other chaotic things. So this is Night Groove, I believe. And I think that's the name of it. I'll again put it on the screen because everything's out of whack right now. And this is lichen and lace yarn. I love lichen and lace. It was like a perfect match. It was like, okay, lichen and lace. I think Megan, lichen and lace, was having a sale. Canadian independent dyer, beautiful yarn. This is the Rustic Heather Sport. I've knit maybe 4 or 5 sweaters out of it at this point. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite yarns. But because of all the stuff going on in the world right now, it's kind of difficult to move things internationally. And I was really happy she was offering free shipping at one point a few months ago, and I grabbed the yarn for the distressed sweater, and then I was like, well, if you're going to get an extra skein or two, you might as well get the sweater quantity. So anyway, this is lichen and lace, love it, and Night Groove. And this is a classic Isabel Kraemer top-down yoked sweater. And I mean, there's not, if you've knit Isabel Kraemer's top-down yoked sweaters, it's kind of like, you know what you're getting, which is one of the reasons I think we all like Isabel Kraemer, because you know what you're getting, you know it's going to be sized well, you know that the pattern's going to be technically great and specific and correct. And if you love modification, you know you can mod it. So I've been doing that because of the gauge. My gauge was off, so I think I went up a size. I can't even remember what I did because who knows what happened with this sweater. But I really wanted to kind of replicate what she had done, which is this kind of neon look, like a real garden kind of vibe, like a viney vibe. So I went with one of the new colors from Lichen and Lace, and I cannot remember what it is, but she introduced this one, I think, at the same time that she introduced a bright highlighter pink. This is like a highlighter yellow almost, or green. And you can see it kind of like actually mutes out a little bit with the blue. But in the original, Isabel Kraemer had done a completely different yarn, but this kind of color combo of like a really bright highlighter kind of color with a blue. It looks like a black or like a very dark yarn in the photos, but if you actually look up the yarn that she used, it was actually this kind of like dark, not quite a navy. There's something richer about this than a navy, but this kind of dark blue with the green. A little bit of a color combo that's kind of unexpected. And I think when people see this sweater, like I know when I saw the original, I was like, oh, that's really striking and interesting. So I wanted to go with that same kind of look. Some of the other project pages in Ravelry have, I got Tink coming in here. I don't know how the sound is going to be in here. It's wood floors and kind of a high ceiling, so it might be a little echoey and you might hear her little claws on the floor. I'm sorry for that. We'll figure it all out as we go. But anyway, I went with this kind of palette because some of the other projects in Ravelry had a more muted palette or different colors, and they just didn't quite pop as much as this. So this is what I ended up with. And then I knit the sweater twice. Yeah, that's the sad part of the story. So I finished all the way down to the ribbing, and I put it on, I think either for... Oh, it wasn't the Saturday Zoom. It was for I have another Zoom that I was doing when I was in New York in the middle of the week. And I put it on to try it on to see if it was the right length. And I could see that there was like this block of color in the middle here. And it was because the Lake colorway, I'm not sure that this is actually true of a lot of lichen and lace yarns because she's an independent dyer, small batch dyeing, colors vary, and what I should have done, it's not lichen and lace's fault, it's my fault. What I should have done is swapped out skeins as I went, like interchanged them, all the way down. And I didn't do that, and I started a new skein here, and it ended here, and there was another one here, and the one in the middle was a very dark blue that had no variation. You can see that this one has some variation in it, a little bit of light spots, a little bit of darker spots, and because I was swapping the skeins in and out on the second go, you can see that it's kind of all muddled together, which is what you want. But on that first go, I had a big block of color in the middle of the sweater. And I liked the sweater so much that I was like, you know what, I'm taking it out. So I sat in New York. We were basically living in our camper at that point. And I just pulled it all out, rewrapped all of the yarn into these hand-wrapped balls and started over from here. And that's fine, but it's size 2 needles and it's more knitting. That's what everyone always says. They're like, well, if you rip it out, at least you like knitting. So there you go. I reknit the entire body. So I would have been finished with this sweater way long ago because the amount of time that just to reknit the body, I could have finished the sleeves really easily. So anyway, sweaters take a while sometimes. We all know this. I'm much happier with the way the body is looking now. It has a little bit more of a modelly marled kind of like even look around the entire torso. I wasn't so worried about this upper part because it was one skein and it was swapped out with the color work. So you can't really tell what's going on there. There's a little bit of undyed action here in a couple spots where I think this skein didn't quite hit the dye in the dye pot as much as some of the other places. The one over here in particular is kind of bugging me a little bit. But after reknitting the sweater once, I wasn't about to go back and do it again. So this is what we've got. We're gonna go with it. I think it's a lovely sweater anyway. And I'm pretty psyched about it. One of the things that I did notice, a couple mods I made. I did what I usually do, which is split the hem, and I made the back hem a little bit longer, twice as long actually as the front hem. And this hasn't been blocked or anything, so it'll block out a little bit more and be a little bit more chill here. It won't look like, pulled apart. But I did the split hem, and I did swap the yarn in and out. And you can see over here, this pattern calls for a fake seam with a purl stitch. And when I swapped the yarn out, I was trying to do it on the side, when I was exchanging skeins, because I thought it would be less noticeable, obviously, than like the front or the back. I messed up here and I was doing this method of like pulling one to the front, and then, anyway, I messed up here, and you can see I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a jog that goes that way. But I decided to do it kind of next to the purl row because then it looks a little bit like a seam, and I didn't have all of my normal tools and tricks where I was staying for the last month or so. So I didn't have an extra needle. Usually when I do this technique of swapping the skeins in this particular way, where you pull one to the front and then knit around and then flip it to the back, I usually use a spare needle to kind of hold the row below to gauge so that it will hold the stitch open. I didn't have that, obviously. I was just like winging it. So I ended up getting a little bit of a pull here, and I think you can see that on where I was swapping the skeins out. I think it will block out, largely block out. Not sure, but I'm also just kind of okay with it because I had already reknit the sweater. I was working in some questionable conditions, and you know what? It's fine. It's a sweater, and it's going to block out on the side, and no one's going to see it anyway because that's where my arm goes. There you go. We're going to be a little more forgiving at this point, given like the chaos of the last couple of months. I also didn't have my normal waste yarn, so I was using, I used the contrast color as my waste yarn. Generally not recommended. And for those of you who have been knitting a long time, you know why. Because if you use a wool yarn, especially a single ply wool yarn like this, you're not only risking it breaking, but you're also risking it felting accidentally. You know, like it could get stuck in the stitches. It can be kind of harder to pull them apart because wool wants to hook up with wool. Usually when I do this, my waste yarn would be like a superwash or a acrylic or something like that, which is not going to be attracted to the more woolly wools. So you wouldn't end up accidentally felting things. Luckily for me, I was pretty careful and everything worked fine. I just pulled the stitches off the waste yarn and onto needles yesterday, and it's looking great, not a problem. I'm even happy with the armpit holes. They're pretty good. This was I did an underarm provisional cast on like I usually do, so that there's no seam and there's no picking up stitches here. It's just looks like it's continuous knitting. So that's how that sleeve will work, and that's how this sleeve will work. That's why I have 2 bits of waste yarn here. So these aren't, these stitches are live. This was that provisional cast on that I have to talk about. I think I do have a video up about it, which you can check out if you're interested. So, Night Grooves. Awesome sweater. Short rows included. Isabel Kraemer. Excellent. And that's what I'm working on currently. I'm hoping to finish up. I did also not have enough yarn in the end, so I bought a couple of extra skeins from the Woolly Thistle, which is kind of on the American side. They are a supplier of lichen and lace, and I think that their prices are really actually comparable to buying it directly from Canada at this point. So yeah, I recommend Woolly Thistle. I do have a link down to the Woolly Thistle down there. I'm one of their affiliate people. So I have a little link down there that if you click on it and use it, yay, it gives me a little commission. Thank you. But I've loved the Woolly Thistle forever. They did a giveaway with me a long time ago, right when I started the podcast. Corinne is just awesome. And that's usually where I buy my books and actually a lot of my yarn, because I love buying yarn that's not always American, and the Woolly Thistle comes through on that one. So that's where I picked up my extra skeins of lichen and lace in the lake color, which will be the sleeves. And I may need to do the same thing with the sleeves, which is I should probably find all of my Swift and ball winders and actually cake up those skeins so that I can swap them in and out just like I did with the body, so I don't end up with, you know, color blocks one way or the other. Yeah, so that is what I'm working on and what I finished. I have my needle felting bear that I want to work on, and Living Felt just put out a new class about waterfalls, 2-dimensional felting, which I'm taking right now, which is really wonderful. It's just nice to get back slowly to the things that you really love and care about when you have been in the midst of like moving chaos for a couple of months. So very slowly trying to just like, you know, get my way back into things. The other news, the other exciting thing, now that you've watched all the way to this point, is for those of you who have been following the saga of the book, the Wool and Chemistry book, it now has a contract. So we are probably about a year away from it coming out, and I will keep you updated on that. I'm doing final revisions in the next couple of months. I know, bad timing. So I'll give you some sneak peeks in the next year as we're waiting for it to come out. And I just think of it as a really fun book about this period of time in the 1950s when wool was going through some changes. So if you're interested in the history of wool and you're interested in good stories, I think you'll like the book, but gotta wait another year. I will try to give you some sneak peeks in here just to keep us all interested while we're waiting for that one to come out. Yeah, so I think that's it. That's all I got. I need to go set up some shelves and find some things, you know, like some basic things in this room still. Hang up some art, have some fun. Let me know what you think about the sound and the light and everything with this episode, and maybe I'll try other places in the room if things aren't working right. But it's great to see you, and I hope you've all been well. Thanks so much to the Patreon producers who have helped keep things rolling, even though I wasn't able to podcast for the last couple of months. That's Bethany, Laura, Lenore, Nargis, Jennifer, Rose, and Kendra. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have your support. And thanks to everyone else who's a podcast patron over on Patreon. I appreciate it. I hope to hear from you in the comments. Let me know how you've been. I'd like to get to connect up with you all again. And I will be back here in the yarn room in a couple of weeks with another episode. So I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.